Hey everybody, this is Robert Burke. I would like to welcome you to When to Play episode number 11. And today we are going to be talking about a card game called Lost Cities. And this is by the very prolific Dr. Reiner Knizia. He is a game designer that is probably the most prolific game designer on the face of the planet. He has hundreds and hundreds of published game designs published by a myriad of different countries. And his games tend to be very mathematical, for lack of a better term. And Lost Cities is a good example of it. It is a simple card game. So, this is a casual game. So if you're a heavy strategy gamer, this may not be for you. But it makes a great filler because it plays very quickly. This is a game I would recommend that you play with friends that like card games. Maybe they don't like board games necessarily, but if they like card games that you play with a regular deck of cards, this is a great game to introduce them to something different. And what Lost Cities does is it's a card game, so there's a lot of luck involved here, right? Luck of the draw. Depending on what cards you draw to your hand, it has a lot to do with how good you're going to do. But it also has some other elements. It has a push your luck element to it. And to be good at this game, you have to be good at risk management. So it's not just a total luck-based card game. There are other aspects to it that make it much more interesting. So in the game, there's a game board where you can play your cards. You don't even really need to use this. It's a high quality game board. Now the illustrations and the art in the game, the art on the cards isn't so bad, but the illustrations on this board, they're not the best. That's my personal opinion. I think they could be a little bit better. Sometimes I've played this with people who have a hard time differentiating between the different colors here, especially the yellow and the white, or the yellow and the green. They have a hard time understanding which color is which. But once you point it out to them and you start playing cards, it's not an issue at all. But you'll see there are 5 different color cards in the game here. There is red, green, white, blue, and yellow. And the idea here is you are an archaeologist. Now, there is a theme on here, but this is a good example of a game that really, the theme really is pasted on. The game is really kind of a mathematical risk management card game, but this theme is pasted on to make it a little more interesting. But it's not really going to immerse you in the theme, right? You're going to be looking at numbers and deciding where the best place to play the cards in your hand are. But the background is that you are, when you play a card on one of these different expeditions, they're called expeditions, the different colors, and they're different spots. Like the yellow one here is Egypt, for example, or Atlantis. There's different, archaeological sites that you're going on an expedition. So when you play a card on one of those, you are going on an expedition, and an archaeological expedition, and that costs money. So as soon as you play a card, you have to subtract 20 points at the end of the game for that expedition. So every different color card you play, you start 20 points in the hole. So if I start on the red and play this 2 card, then my points for that expedition is minus 18 at the end of the game if I don't play any more cards on that spot. So you have to be pretty confident that you are going to get more than 20 points to make an expedition worth it. And you're going to just add up the points on your expedition, all the cards that you play on a color. You're going to add them up, subtract 20, and that's how many points you're going to score for that color. But you have an opponent, right? So if I start with a 2 and I have no other red cards, and my opponent gets all the red cards, then I'm hosed. I am minus 18 points on that expedition. So the cards range from 2 to 10, and that's it. So you have a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, a 7, an 8, a 9, and a 10. So if I had the 10, right, and I had the 2, in red, sorry, if I had the 2 and the 10 in red, and I played the 2 first, that's minus 18 points. Then I've got to play a number higher than the last card I've played. So I could play any number after the 2. But it would be a mistake to play the 10 next, because now my total is 12. But I still have to subtract 20 points, right? So if that was what I played, 12 points, I would still be minus 8 red on the red expedition at the end of the game. So you need to make sure you have a couple other numbers in here to bring you over 20 points. So if I was dealt the 8, the 9, and the 10 on the red expedition, I'm sitting pretty. I know I'm going to score points there. But another thing you need to worry about is when the deck runs out, right? There are, 9 cards of the 5 different colors. So when the deck runs out and you're both drawing every turn and playing every turn, then the game is over. And then whatever expedition you have not finished is going to be minus points. So there's that definite push your luck element, risk reward. It's not a game where you want to go on a bunch of different expeditions or you're going to go negative. You only want to play expeditions that you know that you can finish. But on your turn, every time you have to play a card first. So I have to play a card to start an expedition. And when I do that, I'm going to play it underneath on my side of the board, one on the color expedition I want to go on. Or I can choose to discard a card. So if I discarded a blue, I would put it here on this blue area of the board, and that would be a discard. So every card that's on the board on your opponent's turn is available for them to draw. So you have the choice after you play a card on an expedition or discard, one of the two, then you can draw a card blind from the deck or from one of the discards on the expeditions. So if you don't want to risk starting an expedition, now you've got to decide, okay, what am I going to discard? What does my opponent need? What expeditions are they trying to go on? Obviously, you want to discard lower numbers, not higher numbers. If my opponent had played, for example, red 5, then I can safely discard the red 4, the red 3, and the red 2, right? Because they can't play a card less than a number they've already played on an expedition. So it's a very simple game. You can teach it very quickly. This is a great game to teach with younger kids to improve their math skills and their reasoning as well, and to help them develop that kind of, there is some strategy in the game. As I talked about, deciding what to discard, deciding what to play, that balancing that risk reward. Do I really want to start this expedition? I'm 4 points short, but chances are pretty good that I'll get 4 more points. So I'm going to risk it and play that. So there's that kind of thought process going in the game. And as the draw deck goes down, the clock is ticking, right? So you get that tension at the end of the game where, oh my goodness, I've got 2 expeditions I haven't finished yet. I'm going to go negative. I've really got to get those cards. So a lot of times you're just praying that your opponent is going to discard something that you can use, or that you're going to draw something that will bring you over those 20 points. So it's a 2-player game. That's it. You can't play with more people. It's a really fast game, which is great. It's something you can pull out as a filler. There's a similar game that Knizia did called Battle Line, which is very similar, a tiny bit different. I think both of those games are very good filler. We pull them out at our game group, you know, if we want to fill in 10 or 15 minutes in between games, for example. But it's also a game you can play with your spouse, with your in-laws, with your friends who aren't gamers if they enjoy card games. It doesn't take up a lot of space, and it's very inexpensive. So Lost Cities by Reiner Knizia, I would recommend it. And before we go, I want to check out some of the reviews and ratings on Board Game Geek to see what people said that might help you decide what you think. All right, so Lost Cities on Board Game Geek is rated a 7.13, and it has 17,000 people have rated this game. So that's a lot of people who have rated Lost Cities. So it's a big seller. So here's a bunch of ones. As with most games, there's a bunch of people who rated a 1, the worst rating possible, and a bunch of people who rated a 10, the best rating possible. So again, that goes to my point. It matters what you like, right? Because somebody else doesn't like it doesn't mean you're not going to like it. Because somebody loves it doesn't mean you are. It depends on what you like. For Lost Cities, you've got to like a kind of quick, mathematical, risk management card game. If that's appealing to you, you'll like this game. But Steve says, I really, really hate this game and it makes me angry and miserable every time I play it. So yeah, you can get frustrated with this game. So if you're a person who gets frustrated easily, this may not be the game for you. Because if you make the wrong moves, or even worse, if you don't get the cards that you need, then it can be a frustrating experience. But on the other side of the fence, if you make good moves, or you get cards that you really need, you have the opposite feeling about Lost Cities. But all in all, the tug of war, the push and pull of the game balances out pretty well. There's a lot of luck involved in the game for sure. But if you don't like feeling helpless sometimes or having to make those tough decisions, those risky decisions, then you might not like it. Here's another one from Jeff. Yeah, I know most others seem to love this game, but like with Carcassonne, it just never clicked with me. Sure, you can decide which deck to collect or play, but I just don't see the excitement. Sold also in great disappointment after the scores, reviews, and many accolades I have read about. Chris says, everyone but me loves this game because of my horribly bad luck. I lose at least 150 by 150 point margin every time, no matter who I play, guaranteed. So maybe Chris really does have really bad luck. Or maybe he's got to work on his risk management skills a little bit. So here's a bunch of 10s. Lee says, I love this game. It's hard to find good games I can convince my wife to play, and yet be complex enough in strategy where I can still enjoy it. This is that game. Simple rules that allow for a staggering amount of incredibly difficult choices and tactics. Loads of fun. So that's the bottom line. This is a great game if you're married to somebody who doesn't like board games but does enjoy card games. Like my wife, for example, loves Canasta, but she doesn't like long board games. This is a game that we can play that she enjoys. And she pretty much whips me at it every time, too. So maybe that's why she likes to play it. But a good game for that. If you have a non-gaming spouse, Lost Cities, I think, is something you want to try as well. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Lost Cities, if you like quick games, if you're looking for a game that offers a little bit more than a standard deck of cards to play with somebody who's not a gamer, it's a great choice for you. If you don't like random elements in your game or feeling stuck, if you don't like risk management and push your luck elements in games, then it's not a game for you. But it's inexpensive, and I think it's worth every penny. So that's our review for Lost Cities. I hope it's helped you decide whether it's something for you.